to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. It means the world to me. Now let's get started with tonight's relaxation. So tonight, I'll be whispering the 6th fictional story I wrote. This one is called The Echoes of Silverbrook Manor. A letter from the past. The rain whispered against the windows of Silverbrook Manor, a forgotten estate resting beneath an endless sky of gray. Time had stolen its former glory. Ivy strangled its once proud walls. The grand iron gates stood slightly ajar, and silence had settled into its bones. No one had lived here in decades, or so the stories claimed. Elena Whitmore, a historian drawn to the mysteries time had buried, never believed in ghost stories. But when an unnamed letter arrived at her doorstep, carrying words that sent a quiet shiver through her bones, she found herself standing before the manor's entrance, lantern in hand. The letter had said only this: "There is a room in Silverbrook Manor that does not exist in any record. It was seated long ago, hidden behind a tapestry in the northern wing. Within it, you will find letters that were never meant to be forgotten, but be warned, some echoes of the past still linger." That word, echoes. She whispered it under her breath, and the night air seemed to shift around her. Echoes. The rain had begun to fade to mist. The oaken doors of the manor loomed before her, weathered but strong. Yet, as she reached out, they moved. Not by her hand. They creaked open on their own. A house that breathes. Elena hesitated, heart beating against her ribs. The air inside was thick with the scent of dust, aged wood, and something else. Something lingering. Her lantern's flame flickered. As she stepped inside, the weight of centuries pressed down upon her. The grand hall stretched before her, a chandelier of dulled crystal, paintings of long-forgotten faces, a velvet running untouched by time. The portraits lining the walls watched her, or at least it felt that way. Her footsteps barely made a sound, swallowed by the hush of the manor. She moved carefully toward the north wing, where the letter had instructed her to go. The floorboards creaked beneath her boots. The air grew colder. The tapestry stood at the very end of the corridor, massive, ancient, depicting a forest in autumn, its golden leaves frozen in time. But what unsettled her most was the figure standing at the center of the woven trees. It was blurred face, yet it almost seemed to be turning toward her. Slowly, she reached out, gripping the fabric with trembling fingers, and she pulled it aside. Behind it, a door. It was smaller than she expected, almost hidden entirely. The handle was cold as ice. She took a breath, and she turned it. The room of forgotten words. A door groaned open. A breath of air, stale, unmoving, escaped the darkness beyond. Elena raised her lantern. The room was untouched by time. A wooden desk stood at the center, covered in scattered letters, their envelopes yet yellowed with age. A single chair, a long burnt-out candle. But the walls were lined with bookshelves, and yet not a single book rested upon them. Only dust, only silence. Elena stepped inside. The moment she crossed the threshold, the door swung shut behind her. Her pulse jumped. She exhaled, trying to calm herself. It's just the draft, she told herself. Just the air shifting. But something felt wrong. Her fingers hovered over the letters. One in particular caught her eye. Unsealed, its ink darker than the others. She lifted it, her breath hitching as she read. "To the one who finds this, we were never meant to be forgotten." A distant creak echoed from the manor beyond. The second letter was shorter, rushed, frantic. "She still lingers in the hall, whispering for someone to remember her. I remember her voice in the walls. I fear she will not rest until she is found." A soft rustling stirred behind her. Elena froze. The air grew dense, heavy, a presence pressing into the room. Then something else, a whisper, not her own. You found it. The lantern flickered violently. Her breath came quicker now. She turned, scanning the room. Nothing. No one. And yet, the burnt-out candle on the desk sparked to life. The shadows in the corners of the room shifted. Elena's hands shook as she picked up another letter. This one was addressed to her. To Elena, the historian who would come looking. I have waited for you. You must finish the story. Her stomach twisted. The house had been expecting her. The whisper returned, closer this time. Write it down. Let them be heard. The walls groaned softly. The flickering candle cast shifting shadows, stretching, waiting. Elena swallowed hard. With a steady hand, she sat at her desk, picked up her notebook, and began to write. As the ink flowed onto the page, the manor seemed to breathe. The whispers faded. The air grew still. And for the first time in decades, Silverbrook Manor was at peace. The end. Or just the beginning. Alright, I think that'll be it for tonight. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you all sleep on. I hope you all have a great night.